Yo everyone, today I'm going to teach you all about overtaking on F1 2025 and how to overtake efficiently while minimizing the risk to your race while maximizing the opportunity to take the position. We're going to start off racing against the AI here as the maximum difficulty of 110%, just to show you the examples, talk through the methods that I use, and then we're going to go later in the video to online lobbies to race against real life people, so then you can also see how they work in a more normal environment. Because of course, racing against the AI is very different compared to racing against online people, and I want to take that into consideration for this video, and just give the best information that I can, to be honest. So with that being said, we're going to cover topics such as opportunistic overtaking, like that one was. And opportunistic overtaking is really just defined by doing an overtake in a place that's quite unlikely or unusual for the track and the situation that you're on. So turn 1 at Hungary and turn 2 at Hungary are mostly anyway, the best overtaking spots, whereas when you get to the final sector here, it's quite unlikely to have an overtaking opportunity, and it would be opportunistic to send the car in like that and to be taking the position. Once again, that probably wouldn't work against an online player, and only really available to you when racing against the AI. Other opportunities are such as dive bombs, when you go really late to the brakes up the inside of the car ahead, such as this example right now against Leclerc. We go really late to the brake, down the inside, take the position, claim the apex, and we are ahead. Again, it's very difficult to do that against an online player, but much easier to do it against the AI when you're playing single player, career mode, or co-op career mode. Whatever you're doing against the AI, you can really exploit them and take the advantage of them in that situation. Other things that we're really going to be talking about is how to set up overtakes and how to use your battery and how to be efficient with it and to not be wasting your time and minimizing the risk to bring damaging your car, you know, because I think it's quite easy to be aggressive, but it's quite hard to be aggressive while being smart, precise, dynamic in that situation to not add extra risk to your race. So first of all, let's start speaking about how to dive bomb. So we're going to close it to the back of Oscar Piastri so we can go for a dive bomb into turn 1 and really show how to highlight that. I think a dive bomb is characterized by going from so far back in a very unlikely distance to make the overtake happen. Also, really where you're almost forcing the car to kind of avoid you to make the overtake happen without contact. If those situations are happening, that's more or less what I would define as a dive bomb. The AI is so quick on the straights on this year's iteration of the game, so they're going to pull away from me, and we're going to dive bomb Piastri from 4/10 back down the inside. You're going to see we claim the apex, and we're basically forcing Piastri away from the apex to get what we want, you know. So I would sort of characterize that as a dive bomb, especially coming from 4/10 behind. So how do I dive bomb, and how do I make it look like more easy and lower the risk to me, basically? So first of all, when you do pull out, you want it to be quite late. You don't really want to do it too early because you want to catch the car by surprise. Again, yes, I know this is the AI, but if we're speaking about an online player as well, and before I say this, disclaimer, please don't go and take everyone out and just say because you watched a video. Otherwise, that's going to look quite bad on me, and I'm just trying to do a video to help. But anyway, I don't want to see in loads of League Racing Stewards reports like, well, Brendon told me to do this. So please just take that into consideration. Still race cleanly. But anyway, getting back to the point of the video, you're going to see that we just move out at the latest situation possible against Piastri, and then we pull our car to the inside. We really focus on straight line braking here, because if you start turning the steering wheel too much in the braking zone, you're just going to lock up the front tires. I've talked about it in more detail in previous videos as well, but when you're turning and braking at the same time, you're double stressing and double loading the front tires, and it's going to make it easier to lock up. Tires and cars in general like to do one thing excellent at a time. They don't like to split their focus and split their energy. So you really want to keep the steering wheel straight for as long as you can, so then all the energy is focused on keeping the front tires from locking up and maximizing the brake pedal percentage that you can use. Going into the corner, of course, we start turning when we actually need to get to the corner. You just can't keep the steering wheel straight forever. But a little thing that we're doing, if you look at the steering wheel right now, we're going to use a bit of the engine braking. You get engine braking every single time you downshift. The harder that you downshift and the higher the RPM is when you engage the lower gear, the more engine braking you get. So, for example, just looking at the LED strip on the steering wheel here, you're going to see it goes to purple, and the purple is going to be about 12,000 RPM. So the higher that you downshift, or the higher that the LED strip is when you downshift, I should say, the more aggressive you're going to get your engine braking. The downside of that, it makes it quite easy to lock up the rear tires, and it makes it more unstable going into a corner in a normal situation. So normally you don't want to be that aggressive when you're downshifting the engine and the gearbox going into a corner. But in this situation, when you're dive bombing and you need every bit of stopping power you can, then to be honest, it's not a bad option to be using the engine braking. So yeah, just in summary, when you downshift, the more LED you have on the steering wheel, the higher the engine's going to be, because the RPM is higher in the engine, it's more stressed, and that's going to help slowing down the car just marginally. And the lower that the RPM is on the steering wheel, for example, you can see right now we only have 2 of the green. That's probably around like 8,000 RPM, maybe 9,000 RPM. So it's going to be about 4,000 RPM less than 12,000. Quick maths. And basically, yeah, that's going to mean you have less engine braking. So summary, the harsher that you start downshifting in this situation, the quicker you start downshifting, providing that you're not overstressing the rear tires and going to lock up the rear tires in the braking zone, the more engine braking you're going to get, and you can use that to your advantage. As you can see, I normally take turn 1 at Hungary in the race, even in qualifying, in 3rd gear. I think it's better to keep more minimum speed. It's better to control the traction on the exit as well. In this example, we go down to 2nd to take advantage of the engine braking, and then you're going to see once I recognize that the car is slowed down enough that I can turn it, then we go down, actually I should say we go up into 3rd gear to go back to our normal and preferred gear for the rest of the corner. Even still so, getting a little bit of oversteer just from how much engine braking instability we introduced to the car because of that situation. Didn't help also that we was quite deep in the dirty air of the cars ahead, I must say that. So now we're going to quickly ride on board with Oscar Piastri's point of view, and you're going to see how that would look from the opposing car. Of course, again, I know it's just the AI, but we're going to talk more about this in an online race later. You can see we pop up the inside. Oscar can't claim the corner anymore, and now he's sort of left out to dry on the exit. Again, this probably won't work that easily against online players, but against the AI, it's a really efficient option to get past them very quickly. So yeah, that's basically how to dive bomb. I'll do a follow-up video as well about how to defend and how you can actually defend from dive bombs, because there is a decent method to do it without costing yourself too much time or energy. So yeah, really, it's something quite interesting anyway for me, so I'm going to do a follow-up video on it, and hopefully that could be helpful for people as well. But yeah, now we're going to get into the sort of topic of opportunistic overtakes now that we're on the back of Kimi Antonelli. Hungary, ironically, is one of the hardest to overtake on the whole calendar, but it's fantastic for when you're looking for opportunistic overtakes. Like that is a really key opportunistic overtake that it's very unlikely that you're going to go for an overtake on this corner in this situation, but because you can basically carry more speed through the first apex to get basically to the second apex ahead of Piastri. So normally you wouldn't really be applying the throttle that aggressively as you're looking to set up the following right-hander, as it's more important to get a good exit from the right-hander than it is to get a good exit from this first left-hander. So that's just the sort of basic introduction to racing lines. Then we're going to sort of just get back on the power super early, claim the inside line. Again, this is so risky because the other car just might not see you and turn in still, and there can be contact. But we're going to claim the inside line. Kimi Antonelli actually has to turn out of the corner to avoid me in this situation, and this is going to be allowing us to claim the apex. Again, much easier to do against the AI than it ever would be against an online player. If we're speaking about racing online players, as you can see here, Kimi just turning away from the corner to give me the space. If we're going to speak about online players, if you're going to do something like this, you have to be having your car ahead of them by the corner to make them see you. You know, it's all well and good sending really aggressive dive bombs, overtaking opportunities like this. But if you really want to minimize the risk of damage to your car or making contact, because if you make contact in this situation, most of the time it's your fault because you're the one putting yourself in that situation as a really big surprise, you know. So yeah, you have to just get your car ahead. So if I was doing this against an online player, in a league race, open lobbies, whatever, to try and make this overtake as clean as possible and low risk as possible, I'd be looking to try and get my car all the way ahead. And to be honest, you want to be like this, that your car is already ahead of the other car, and then they can't turn in because you've actually claimed the corner by being ahead, you know? But every single time that you're behind the other car, to be honest, in some ways, they still have the right to turn in. Even if they don't see you, or even if they do see you, they have the right to turn in because it's just such a surprise dive bomb, such a very aggressive move. But you just have to basically be thinking about that ahead of time, getting your car ahead of theirs to claim the corner, and then you can be sweet as a nut and then be taking the position as low risk as possible. So here we go then. Some online races to test out our racing theories on how you can be maximizing the opportunity to get past cars while minimizing the chance of picking up damage in that situation. We're just doing some open lobbies at the moment. So yeah, we got through the first lap. What was carnage as usual with open lobbies. Oh my lordy lord, like the standard of racing in these open lobbies is shocking. But anyway, getting back to the point of the video, this Noah lad up ahead of me seems actually pretty quick. We did one race before this in Brazil. To be honest, the footage was unusable just because everyone was taking everyone out. What was hilarious, it was good fun in that sense. But yeah, just to be making the points of the overtaking examples. I really hope that Noah can be racing us in a good way, racing us in a clean way, because it seems like his pace is actually very good. So Abu Dhabi is quite difficult to actually be creative with your overtaking opportunities. You have an opportunity down into the third sector here, going up the inside, but then more or less all of this is following the car head through, waiting for the DLS detection, and then maximizing it from that point onwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to just try a few attempts here with Noah, be faking him, be aggressive, trying to get a car up the inside of him to just show the examples that we talked about earlier in the video. Through turn one now, closing up onto the back of him. So we know the DRS detection is after this turn 2 here in Abu Dhabi. Right now is the DRS detection line as we just go over it. So now we have to stay nice and close to him. So the first option is to stay nice and close, drain a lot of our battery, and we can have an easy overtake, because of course no real overtake is that easy in a normal situation. So we're going to try and push him towards the inside here, make him go defensive, but now we're just going to claim the inside. A little bit of lag there caused us to be hitting the back of him, but it seemed a-okay. Noah's done a really smart job here, actually, with maximizing his exit. So he's actually going to re-overtake me on this straight right now. And I think this battle is going to be quite cool, to be honest. So yeah, he's done a really good job there of basically allowing me up the inside to re-overtake us on the DRS straight on the following time, you know? So, honestly, fair play to Noah. He really thought that through, and that's a good example to talk about in this sort of overtaking efficiency, because you can go for the overtake on the first opportunity, right, on the first straight, but if that's going to leave you too vulnerable on the following straight without a DRS advantage, then you can leave yourself so vulnerable like we did to Noah right there. And Noah did a fantastic job of actually explaining that point and showing it in a live example. Lap 4 now, and you can see Noah is also doing a decent job of keeping a good pace ahead of us. So now what we're going to do is learn from the previous example. We're going to try and not overtake him on the first straight and set it up for the second straight, so then we're not so vulnerable and we can try and lead into the final sector. So now we're going to stay close to him, make him think that we're going to go for the same move. So turn on the battery right now so we can try and drain his battery deployment as well. Just going to be faking him left and right a little bit, just try to make him look in the mirrors, but now we're going to go up the inside, but we're not actually going to go up the inside. We're going to learn our lesson from last time. He's gone a little bit deep because he was watching too much in the mirrors and not on the road ahead of him. And now we're going to be super close to him, and we're going to be able to do to him what he did to us last lap. Now he's out of battery because his flashing light on the back of the car. If you see the red light flashing, that means that underneath 10% deployment available, and we're able to fly around the outside of him into the corner in a very easy way. So that's a good strategy you can think about on your battery deployment. We're actually going to let him back through ahead of us again, so we can do another example and battling throughout the final lap. You can see go through the final sector, almost ran into the back of him. Apologies for that, Noah. But yeah, that's just a good example on how you could be using your battery He wants to be leading. What a lad. Oh, no, you go ahead, mate. You go ahead. Nah, he really wants to be ahead of me, be behind me. Anyway, so he clearly wants a DLS detection zone. So now what we're going to be doing is letting him overtake on the first DRS straight, and looking to see how we can attack or defend into the final sector in a slightly different example. So yeah, this video, in the summary of it, the first point of the video has been like showing how you can do the theory against the AI, and now this is a good example about how you can actually be battling people in a real life example. So Noah, now on the final lap of the race, of course, if you lead into the final sector here in Abu Dhabi on the final lap, it's more than likely that you're going to take the race win. So in this situation, Noah's trying to set himself up to be ahead into the final sector. What we're going to do is actually try to let him through a little bit, so then we can battle into the final sector as well. So now we're going to let him think that we're struggling. He goes to the outside line, and now we have a little bit of battery. We're going to leave the car slightly on the inside to try and make him nervous, but he didn't actually fall for it. Now we're going to try and battle into this final sector to show what we can do. So we're going to go to the inside, try to make him a little bit nervous, but the inside line is open down the inside. He leaves us the space. You can see we went down to second gear to try and use a bit of the engine braking. We switch underneath him. Oh, there's a little bit of contact there. I think that was rubbing his racing. And yeah, we use the engine braking to try and slow down the car. A little bit more contact, but I think that's fair enough. Trying to go for a switchback on the final corner. And we are actually going to get to the line. I know he was going to let me have that. Nah, no, that's yours, lad. That's yours. So that was a great battle. That was actually fantastic. But yeah, just talking through that example, you can see how we'll position our car on the inside. Once the gap emerged, we put our car into it, and also was using the engine braking to try and slow it down. So that's just me talking through my thought processes on how we can be maximizing the opportunity to get the place in a clean way. Of course, there was a lot of wheel banging in the final sector, but I think that was just rubbing his racing, to be honest. Final sector, final lap. There was also a lapped car up ahead, what was ghosted, so it was quite hard to see exactly, I think, where each other were. And it's really hard to go for that sector side by side anyway. So yeah, we're going to do another race. Hopefully Noah stays in the lobby, because that was fantastic. But yeah, just going through that example, you can see how whenever I'm going for a dive up the inside, I make sure the steering wheel is as straight as possible for as long as possible to retain good grip and stability in the front axle. I use the lower gear to try aid with engine braking if the opportunity is there. And yeah, just try to keep the car under control all the time as well. So next time around, we're going to try and look at like the overtaking around the outside, because we've covered a lot of the stuff on the inside now of the corner. We're going to try and swap that around and go for overtakes around the outside of the car. So here we go then for the second race online here at COTA. We just need to get through a bit of this chaos, what hopefully should lend itself to a few good examples along the way of going around the outside of some cars and doing switchbacks as well. You can see the car ahead was going deep, so we positioned ourselves and went around the outside of him in a really efficient way. We saw him going deep on the first apex. We focused on cutting back and making sure that we could go with good momentum around the outside of him on the following corner. Now, up ahead of us, we have a lot of cars battling, and I can assume that a lot of these are going to be burning their battery, so we're going to pick off the Aston Martin by using our battery as well. Cars going deep on the inside. We're going to position ourselves the inside of the Red Bull. Very low risk for us right now, just claiming the corner, claiming our apexes. Mercedes are going to go aggressive. Red Bull down the inside. We saw that coming with the arrow and was able just to react to that. Of course, this is open lobbies, so the racing is going to be very dirty. Red Bull, Aston up the inside. Bit ghosting there. I don't really know what happened. But anyway, was able to get through that relatively unscathed for ourselves anyway, and able just to position ourselves in very low risk positions considering how risky that situation was as well. We've got the Red Bull up ahead, what seems to be a little bit off the pace, and we're able to pick him off, hopefully on the straight, just going to the inside. And now we're going to try and go late on the brakes around the outside of Noah, and the Red Bull's going to be ruining that anyway. We saw the arrow, see you later. But yeah, we're going to let Noah through so we can have a bit of battling with him and be showing the examples of going around the outside of him in this video. Or in this race, I should say. If you're wondering, I have a 2-second penalty because I got dive bombed at turn 1. And there was absolute carnage, as you can imagine, from a open lobby around COTA, Texas. So now what I'm trying to do around this track, to be thinking about how to set up going around the outside. Of course, we've already talked about going up the inside quite a lot. So now we're going to try and focus on getting around the outside of Noah instead of up the inside of him. We're going to focus on trying to get him to go defensive, so it opens up the outside line going into these corners. So now he's going defensive. We're going to pull to the outside here, go late on the brakes, and just try to carry the speed around the outside. And now making sure that our car is ahead of him before the corner. We're going to let him go up the inside, so then we can have the outside line for this following corner again. And the really important thing, when you go around the outside of someone, just make sure that your car is ahead at the apex. That way they can't push you wide. If the car is not ahead at the apex, then they can control the corner and put them off, well, put you off the track, I should be saying. Speaking and talking, driving and talking is quite difficult at the same time while going through this battling, so just bear with me if I do mumble jumble some of my words along the way. Let's see if we can go around the outside, try and squeeze him to the inside a little bit right now. Thank you. He opens up the gap. Late on the brakes again, trying to be ahead at the apex, so then we can control the corner. He leaves a space, but again, good exit from him. Running side by side up into the first sector here was going to be quite difficult. Have to lift here, and he gives us the corner. So what we're going to do is now we're going to be ahead through the first of this sector, opening sector 2 as well, because I think he wants the DLS going down the back straight. Going to get the gap up to 610. So we're going to try and let him go up the inside of us into the left hand at the end of the DRS straight. So not this corner, the following corner ahead of us now. We're going to try and let him go up the inside of us there, so then we can have the outside line going through the final sector. Using a little bit of battery, we're going to fake that we're going to go defensive. Okay, now we're going to let him have the inside line. Tried to go around the outside of him, late on the brakes. He's going to claim the apex there. So now we're going to switch back underneath him, because I saw him going deep on the brakes. And then again, we're going to try and switch back. He does a fantastic job of trying to brake early, cover it. Now we're going to trick him. Go really deep on the brakes here, and what we can do there is just be playing with him. It's a really advanced technique, but you can really think 4 steps ahead in this situation. And then if you know that they're going to go deep on the brake pedal, if you know that they're going to outbrake themselves, or the chance is very high, then you can really just do a dummy to them and go from the outside to the inside, and you just claim the corner. And you're able to shoot off into the distance as a natural result of that. So it's really advantageous for you. So now Noah's on the outside of us into turn 1. We're going to let him go ahead. We're going to pretend that we're going to fight him in this situation, just so he keeps his guard up. And now we're going to use the battery and use an opportunistic overtaking chance to go side by side into the first turn. Well, first turn of the high-speed sequence, but not able to carry speed around the outside there, with having to take a longer distance around the apex compared to him. Into the section here, a lot of dirty air, quite hard to follow super closely up and over the crest of the hill. Now we're going to look opportunistic, and now we're going to dive to the inside. There's not really much point to be doing this overtake logically, because we have the DLS straight coming up right now. Who actually got the DRS? Okay, I got the DRS. So yeah, there was not much point to go up the inside there in a logical reason. It's just a good example to show, like, moving out at the last second to dive up the inside, you know. So now side by side into the braking zone, and he's going to try and do to me what I did to him last lap. So we're going to let him go up the inside. This time we're going to carry speed around the outside, because he expects me to do a switchback. So we're talking a little bit about defensive, and he tries to do to me what I did to him last lap. So fair play, Noah. Fair play, good lad. But yeah, we're going to do another video following up how to defend, and we're going to speak about subjects like that in that kind of video. But for today, we're just going to focus on it being an attackive video. So I think we've had a really good example here. Big thank you to Noah. We got one more lap coming up, and then we'll wrap up the video by the end of this lap. So yeah, one more lap of battling, one more lap of examples, and yeah, big shout out to Noah. He's a MVP of this video for allowing these battling to happen. Now just going for the switchback through turn 1. Very dangerous. We almost clipped our front wing on him side by side into the high-speed sequence of corners here. And now can we hold it this time with the momentum around the outside? And now we are going to go side by side for the high-speed sequence right now. Rear tires screaming as we're still in the higher ERS mode. Too much power for the grip that we had, sliding around quite a lot. Noah's now in the prime position to be getting this overtake done on the back straight. So he's going to be really close to us. So we're going to focus on picking up a phenomenal exit if we can. Lovely jubbly. Actually, he did make a mistake there, but we're going to not use our overtake button too much down the straight and try to set up one more battling example going through the final sector. We're going to let him have the inside line, and what we're going to do, switch underneath him, super aggressive, but you can play that as a trick, very dangerous to do, and we're sort of just going to try and go back underneath him again, but he covers that phenomenally. He already knows my tricks, so what you can do is fake him right now. I was never going to go up the inside, but you can just fake him with the steering wheel because he'll be looking in the mirrors, and by trying to fake him in that situation, he went too deep on the brake pedal. I could take a more normal line, and that opened up the opportunity to go around his outside here. We'll leave him space. What a battle that is. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there, but that's A-okay. Into the final corner, and he's going to do a switch back to me. Oh, what a beautiful example. Go on, Noah. Good lad. Go on. Round of applause for Noah. Round of applause. That was a beautiful switchback on his behalf there for the final corner. So yeah, that is how you could be optimizing your overtaking, your racecraft on F1 2025. Like I say, MVP to Noah, because he really made this video so much better, you know? Yeah. Fantastic, fantastic, Noah. Really appreciate you, buddy. But yeah, hopefully this video can be helpful, informative to you as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed making that. That was such a good video to make. I really enjoyed that. Right. Okay, I need to lock in and do the outro. So yeah, hopefully this video has been helpful, informative to you as well. Enjoyable to watch. I certainly enjoyed making it. Big shout out to Noah one more time in this video. And yeah, if you want to see any other tutorials, feel free to leave them down in the comments. And this video was inspired by a comment in one of my previous videos as well. I'm still getting, like, my mind is still racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour from all that battling. But yeah, this video was inspired by a comment from a previous video. So if you do have any topics that you'd like to see me cover, then yeah, feel free to put it down below and I'll do my best to make it work. So with that being said, I've been Brendon Leigh, and I'll catch you in the next video. Grazie ragazzi. Ciao, ciao. Bye, bye.